Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Soul Rising podcast. I'm your host, Amanda McCoy Flanagan. We are all in on love, loss, and connection here. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so glad that you found me. If you've been listening for a while, welcome back. Thank you so much. Without you, there'd be no reason to do this. And I love doing it. So thank you so much for being here. I always have awesome guests, like I say, and I'm kind of venturing into my polka dot powerhouse sister crew lately. I just put a show out with Dr. Jen Andrade and have a couple of amazing people lined up for you. And I met Cecilia. We went out for coffee and I was like, this girl's just legit. Like, she's real deal. Like, she just tells it like it is. She doesn't beat around the bush. And, you know, to be honest, coming from New York, it's refreshing to hear somebody just be a straight shooter. So I'm going to introduce Cecilia and then we're going to get into our conversation. Cecilia Hendrix is a human experience speaker, host of Unleashing Happiness podcast, and consciousness explorer who believes most of us are sleepwalking through life, functioning but not really experiencing. After a corporate layoff in 2024 became an unexpected catalyst, she took the leap to do the work she was always meant to do, helping people truly feel alive. She connects science and spirituality to explore how identity, emotion, and consciousness shape the way we experience our lives, approaching all of it with whimsy, self-compassion. I love that. And just enough logic to keep it grounded. So true. That is such a great explanation of you. She's also a mom, loves the outdoors, and will absolutely ask to pet your dog. And I love that. When I read your bio, I'm like, that's so cool that you threw that in there. Welcome to the show, Cecilia.
Thank you so much for having me. It's kind of funny. Actually, yesterday I was driving with my daughter and there was this little dog running down the sidewalk and he had this stick that was like 2 or 3 times bigger than the dog. And I asked my daughter, I'm like, you have to pull over. I need to tell them like how cute their dog is. And the dog got so excited that I ran down the sidewalk and gave the dog belly rubs as my daughter's just sitting there waiting like, what the heck are you doing?
Was she embarrassed? Was she embarrassed?
No.
Okay,
No, she's very much like, I think all my children have just come to accept that, yeah, this is just who mom is. Oh, it is.
Mom's a little weird and that's cool. And that's awesome.
Mom's got some quirks, but that's all right.
Yeah, that makes you you. That makes you you and unique and awesome. So so tell us about leaving the corporate job. Like, what was that like for you?
You know, it was unexpected, but also not surprising, I guess is the best way to put it. So I loved my job. I absolutely adored what I did. I got to be creative. I worked with some of the most remarkably smart people that I've ever met. But my time was kind of coming up. I could sense it. You know, you get like those feelings like, this is just not dying in the way that it used to. And it's not, I just kind of had a feeling. And so at the end of July in 2024, I ended up getting the call, you know, the calendar invite with me, HR, and my VP. And they said, you know, appreciate all the work that you've done, but we're going to go ahead and let you go. And it really, truly was a catalyst because at the time I had 2 teenage boys that I was relatively not super comfortable leaving at home, like all day long while I'm gone at the office. I had a dog that was getting older in age and kind of needed to go outside more. And we were struggling a little bit with that. And then also I had become a caretaker for my mom about 40-50% of the time. And I just thought, oh my gosh, like I have so much going on. I have so much that I want to do and ways that I want to connect with people. What kind of is the next step here? And the next step really became like doing my podcast, Unleashing Happiness, also starting to do more content online. And I started working with like a lot more people of showing them, hey, here's what I've been through. Here's what I've figured out. These are the things that I've learned along the way. And let's see how we can all just kind of live a life that we enjoy more and feel a bit less stressed out all the time. That was kind of how that started.
Yeah. So helping people feel truly alive, right? So what do you believe? How do you think we can get there? Like, what does that mean to you? How do we do that? Because I do think a lot of us are sleepwalking through life. I really do. I think a lot of us are just humdrumming it, you know, like go to work, come home, do the laundry, cook dinner, get up, do the next, you know, over and over and over. And that does not feel fulfilling. So
no, it ends up feeling like a Groundhog Day. And you know what I found when I talked to a lot of people, and I know that I was in this spot probably worse than others that I talked to. I would wake up, first thing I would do is check my phone. scroll the phone, rush out of bed, rush my kids to get ready for school, rush to get to work. I also caught myself in a cycle of internal arguments, almost like preparing for what was going to come, but never in a good way. And I just felt like really stressed out. I wasn't sleeping very well. And when I started working with more clients, I found that they were saying the same thing. They're like, well, every day is just like the same old, same old. But when we started to look at like what they were actually doing, the majority of people are spending way too much time on their phone, just being honest.
Yes.
They're not adding any kind of moments for like joy. They're not paying attention to their small wins. They're just like going through the motions. And the more that you do that, the more that you feel numb. And I started to get messages from people. It was kind of neat. People that I would not expect to ever hear from would send me DMs or like private messages or texts. And they'd be like, oh my gosh, I listened to your podcast episode. And I have really lost like that sense of feeling excited about things in life. So I did a couple of the things, and adding just those interruptions, it's really good for us, like on a spiritual level, of course. And I'm firmly into the connecting with like your inner self and your higher self. And I think part of us sleepwalking through life is that we forget kind of who we truly are and the things that we can actually do and the control we have over our own lives and that powerful self that you have. But part of it's also the science piece where it's like, well, if you're just getting up and doing the same thing every day, it becomes like a Groundhog Day. And that just creates a numbness, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, it's just boring. I was just talking
Super boring. Yeah.
like, what's the point, right? Like, if we're alive, we may as well be living,
Right.
for our maximum potential happiness, joy, all of that. I was just talking to a friend. We were texting yesterday. She just got back from her vacation. She's been having some marriage problems, and she said, actually, I said, so how was the trip? And she said, it was so good. She goes, I'm actually rethinking like a lot of, they were talking maybe separating, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think it's just the grind,
Yeah.
the mundane grind that we're in day after day. And then we're unhappy, we're bored, we're this. And then we look at our partner and say, it's because of you, right? Like if I find somebody else, maybe I will be happier. But it all comes from within. And what you were saying about like looking outside, right? And then going internal, we are not the external. We are not the things out there that a lot of people use to define themselves.
Right. Yeah, that's I found that a lot too, where people are always like blaming the external circumstances, or they're saying, well, once this thing happens, then I can do this. Once I figure out how to do like this perfect morning routine, then I can be happy. Once I hit this promotion, then I can travel and see things. And I stopped. I'm like, well, what are you waiting for? One, the future never comes. We only have this moment right now. You're constantly living from present moment to present moment. And when you're waiting for like something to happen so that you can actually become or be the person that you want to be, you're always just striving for something. And look, I totally am on board with like the journey is the fun, but you got to be on a journey to something. You can't just be like thinking constantly of, oh, well, maybe tomorrow or start. My favorite one is well, I have to start on a Monday. Okay, well,
Why?
Why do we have to start on a Monday? Like, why do we have to start at the beginning of a month? Why do we have to wait for New Year's? Like, you don't have to do those things and the blaming of external circumstances, we all have circumstances, right? We all have things that weigh us down. And one of my favorite studies that I learned about recently was that folks that view themselves as resilient in challenging moments report higher well-being and actually overcome those challenging moments more than folks that are convinced that that challenging moment is going to prevent them from being able to be who they want to be or live kind of the life that they want to live. And that's where like the self-compassion really comes in, is you have to give yourself some self-compassion when you're in those challenging moments. Like, I can get through this. I've gotten through hard times. I've made it through every hard thing that I've ever had to face. And I'm here today. And it's just a mindset shift, but it's not like, oh, you have to force think everything's rainbows and puppies.
Yeah, no. Life would be great if it was just rainbows and puppies.
I would love it. As I've mentioned, I like dogs. So yes, I love rainbows and puppies all the time.
One of the things that gave me a lot of motivation and belief in myself was when my therapist from years ago said to me, Amanda, you're going to be okay because you have a 100% rate of being okay. Yeah. You have a history of always being okay, right? Like, yeah, you got to go through the shit, right? Like life happens. It's not like, oh, this happens and I'm okay. No, that's not what we're talking about. But eventually we come out the other side and it's usually better, stronger, wiser, all those things. And all of those painful difficulties, challenges are, I believe, for a purpose, for that lesson. And, I just want to touch before we move on, waiting until once I do this, like, will we ever be ready? It's like, you can't be ready, especially like in a lot of the work that you and I do and a lot of other people that we know do. Like, you got to like put the thing out there and then do it, right? Like, sign up for the speaking gig. Cecilia just did a cool speaking gig yesterday. Sign up for the speaking gig and then figure it out, plan the workshop and then figure it out.
Yeah. And get in front of people. And like, the more that you connect with people, and we're seeing that more and more, right? Where folks are like, oh, especially after the pandemic and, rise of AI and stuff like that, folks are like, wait a minute, I want to connect with humans. I want to hear their stories. And I did want to touch really quick. You made the comment about saying, I'm fine in those like shit moments. And I went through a phase of, you could picture me like curled up in a ball, rocking in a corner, being like, no, I'm fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. That's not the point. That actually creates like more hardship. It's now, like you said, I've survived 100% of the things that I've had to go through. I've been okay. I figured it out. I've learned stuff. I've known what I don't want to do. And I think that's just the important focus for folks is you don't have to force think like this is the greatest thing that ever happened to me, even though it feels like crap and I hate it. You can recognize there's learning in it. There's an experience and it matters and it bothers you because there's an experience. That's what when you and I met, we talked about that a bit with grief. Oh, actually, we were leaving the coffee date for polka dots. And I had recently lost my dog. And I talked about that. Like the grief is there because the experience mattered. That doesn't mean this still doesn't suck. Even if I can honor that mattered. And that's why I feel that way. So yeah, it's just, I try to really avoid toxic positivity because I went through it for so long.
I love that phrase, force think. I've never heard that before. We don't have to force think. I think that's really cool. And going back to what you said before about going internal, going to that inner voice, to that higher self, to, if you sit for a few minutes and just quiet up and ask a question and just allow whatever drops in, like that's usually your answer and you're not forcing it, right? Like listeners, for you guys, like how often have you, try to figure it out or force your will or force a certain thought pattern? And if I just think this way enough, it's going to be real. It's going to happen. How often did that really work out? Usually, I don't know. I feel like something just happens, like life happens, right? Like a door opens, somebody calls you, you see something. Like it's usually in those synchronistic moments and the getting quiet and listening and tapping into something higher that the answers really come. That's what I have found.
Oh, me too. I mean, even yesterday, I was getting ready to go to the speaking thing that you mentioned, and I couldn't figure out where I had placed my keys. And I'm like starting to get into a panic. And this is a small example. I'm like panicking, like frantic, like I need the keys, like I'm going to be late. And I'm kind of panicking. And I stopped. I'm like, what are you doing? Take a breath. The pause, like I'll just add, is the greatest thing you can teach yourself to do. And I just ask, and I do ask, like I ask my higher self, I ask God, universe, source, like, I really need my keys. Please help guide me. Literally in that moment, drops into me. You put them by the printer when you were printing out your notes. Go up to the printer, there they are, and I'm on my way. But if I hadn't stopped, I was in a panic, and then you can't hear that inner voice when you're panicking. That's like the important part of like coming internally, chilling out, taking a moment. Unless you're in like, I'm going to die if I don't do something right now in this moment, like life or death, literally in this moment, stop and allow what's going to come to come. You're constantly like running around in this survival, like I got to find the keys. It creates stress that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah. And what I'm thinking of as you're describing that calming down is regulating the nervous system.
Yes.
Right. And when we can regulate, then we can or calm enough to allow space for other things to come in. And it's also tied into probably emotional regulation. And you do work, right? You talk about emotional regulation and the importance of that. And just like, it almost just feels like making space
Yeah.
for something else to drop in, getting out of your own way, and then that's awesome. I'm glad you found your keys. That would freak me out too. I would have the whole family. I would be probably in the car before I realized that I'd come back and I'd have the whole family scrambling to find my keys.
And I was alone. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. So I had no family to find them. And I hate when I do that stuff because I'm a dropper of things. I'm a carrier of all the things, and then I'm a leaver of things, places. It's just something that I do.
Amazing. I love your language. I love the way you talk. I'm a carrier and a dropper. So I did want to I make some notes when people are speaking. And what I wrote down was, are we always going to put something in the way? Going back to that once concept. I really like that idea of like, once I do this, once I, then I'll be happy. Once I get married, once I get the job, once I have a kid, can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, why do we do that to ourselves?
It's kind of interesting and a little messed up is that we do it because it's the way that our brain is wired. Like our brain's job is to make sure that we survive. And it's much more comfortable staying. I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase that the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. And we get caught in that cycle. And so when you're looking to like do the planning, it's kind of like an analysis paralysis where it's like, okay, I'm going to plan that I can be this person when I get this part figured out. So once I lose the weight, this is one of my favorite ones, is like, once I lose the weight, then I'll go play at the pool with my kids because I don't want to be in a bathing suit now. Well, part of why this is what I found for myself when I did some digging. Part of the reason why you may not want to be in that bathing suit is because you're worried what others will think of you and will judge you. When we are judged, there is a fear that we're going to be ostracized from the community. Well, part of survival for a human is to be part of the community. If we were out, right, and we didn't have the modern things that we have today, the house and the car and McDonald's, right, you would be in a position that you would not be able to survive without the community. You'd have to have like your tribe that was around you. And when we have a fear of being ostracized from that tribe, so that's either speaking up in a meeting, wearing the bathing suit because you're worried somebody's going to judge you, saying something that you're worried is going to like offend somebody. It's just our brain protecting us because we don't want to be pushed out of the tribe. And that's where it comes from. I actually do what's called like, I map stuff out. I'm a writer. So I have notebooks. I talk about lever the things. I have notebooks upon notebooks upon notebooks around this house. And I'll just start writing stuff out. Like, what is it that I'm really afraid of? Why am I avoiding this work? What am I trying to not do? And usually 9 times out of 10 for me, it comes down to not wanting to be ostracized.
Yeah. And then underneath that really is fear, right? Yeah. It's fear of being ostracized, fear of not surviving. In recovery, I often bring my conversations here back to things that we talk about and that we learn in recovery. And typically when there's a problem, if there's a character defect coming, I don't like the word defect, but if there's like a shortcoming or something happening and we're having a problem or resentment, underneath it is always a fear. Yeah. And that is the fear of we're not going to be accepted and we're not going to get, access to food, right? Going back to caveman time, back to caveman time, like just to live. I'm going to be out on my own. I'm going to be kicked out of the group and the saber-toothed tiger is going to come eat me. Yeah. Right. So it's so interesting how we're still functioning with that ape brain, Well,
and when you do that, though, when you look at it, it's like this fear. And then you kind of wonder, okay, so if there was somebody at the pool who literally ostracized me and didn't want me to be part of their tribe because of how I look in a bathing suit, then it gets down to you can start also working on your confidence. That if there's somebody at the pool who's going to judge you and push you out and ostracize you over how you look in a bathing suit, which to me was an irrational fear, but it was something that I held on to. I don't want to be part of their tribe anyways. I'll go find a new tribe. And that's part of what is brilliant about the world that we live in today is that you can constantly go find your tribe. Like, I know you mentioned polka dots earlier and bringing the polka dots on, that is part of the tribe that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy I found these folks because so many are like-minded, even in different industries. And you find the people that you click with. Mm-hmm. And that's available to us now. But the more that you can uncover, like what you're talking about, the fear, like what is this fear? And is it really kind of our old caveman brain that's driving it? And when it is, that's where this old compassion comes from. Oh, okay, so I get it. I just don't understand that I live in modern times and not in a cave.
Yeah.
Got it.
And once you know what that fear is, you can then put it in perspective and you can say, is this a legitimate fear?
Yeah.
Right? Like, is that really the truth? Like, am I not going to survive if somebody pushes me out of their group because they don't like what I look like? And
Right.
the answer is no. Like you're saying, you can go find other friends that you actually respect. I think all of this work that you're doing, that I'm doing on our podcast and all of it, which it's really bringing us all back to our base, like authenticity, our
Mhm.
self-worth, and back to an identity. You were talking about like once I do something or get this job or get the car or whatever, then I can, like myself, or then I can be happy. Do you think there's something around identity with that people are like placing their eggs in the identity basket and letting something externally define them, and then they feel safer, like I could show up like that and it's not really who they are?
Oh, 100%. I mean, our behaviors are all driven from like our identities and what we hold true of ourselves. And if we kind of place that the fact that our identity is only worthy if we have the car or if we have the title or the corner office or look phenomenal in the bathing suit or whatever other thing it is, it's the parts that are held really close to us. And what's interesting too is that the more that that you start to dig into it, you can also pinpoint where it came from. So for me, I was bullied horrifically in the 8th grade. I mean, awful. There was people who just like sit behind me and just like tell me like, you're so ugly, don't you wish you look like this person, you're fat, like all of this stuff that was just fed into me over and over every day. And I know that I carried that for a really long time. Unknowingly, it sits right in the back of your subconscious mind. But I was ostracized in the 8th grade by being bullied. I didn't really have friends. I didn't have that connection. That created that feeling in me, even as I got older and, having this like perfectionist complex and, wanting to make sure I looked a certain way. And when you look at that, then you can say, okay, well, am I upset at that 8th grade version of me that was just like really hurting? No. Do I have to carry her here? No, I can actually tell her, people I know, I don't do a ton of like inner child work, but I really respect the inner child. Like I do it for myself. I don't do it for clients. But I really respect it because I think that's where we come to the self-forgiveness and we start to let go of these identities that we've allowed others to place on us. Other
Mm.
people's choices have given us our self-worth, and that's not where it should come from. That's why we have to go back internal.
I just met with my friend who I'm collaborating with on my annual All In On You retreat I do at Mount Princeton at the end of September. And we were just kicking around ideas and stuff. And she
Yeah.
used the phrase compassion, self-forgiveness. And we're going to put it into one of the sessions. And I pulled out, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I talk about something like that in my book. But it's compassion, forgiveness I talk about for others, like
Okay.
feeling like, well, if they didn't know any better, they couldn't do any better. Does a
Mhm.
person really even require my forgiveness for them? Of course, forgiveness is for us, right? But trying to like kind of have compassion and understand that they did the best they could with what learned experience they had in their lives, but turning this now inward. I really love that, the compassion, or having that self-compassion, self-forgiveness to say, I acted this way, I ran from my true self, I tried to fit in with this crowd that never really accepted me because I was this hurting 8th grader who is in pain, right? And then just the inner child stuff. It is so important. And just to really go back to like, well, I talk sometimes about ACA, adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families. It's a 12-step program. We use the word survival trait. We
Okay.
don't say like AA talks about like defects. A lot of 12-step programs use the phrase defects. They say survival traits. Like we had to employ these things to protect ourselves, right?
Yes.
So that we don't get ostracized, so that we don't feel like we're going to die. Like it could feel like a physical death going back to the caveman brain.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that you talk about it being survival traits because we do learn, and sometimes we learn them actually, most of the time, we learn them very unknowingly. One of my favorite books is The Choice by Dr. Edith Egger. I don't know if you're familiar. She's got a book called Embrace the Possible. And the book is phenomenal. And one of the things she talks about is that we will all be victimized. She's a survivor of the Holocaust. And
Oh, that's the name sounds familiar because I just saw something. Did she pass away recently?
she did pass, I think, on the 27th of April.
Okay, that's right. Yeah.
And I posted about her too. You may have seen her on my story because I love her. I think she's wonderful. She talks about how we are all victimized. We make a choice if we're going to be the victim or be victimized. We have the choice of what we do with those things. But oftentimes, especially when you're younger, you pick up survival traits. I love that. Love that. You pick up these survival traits and you carry them along with you because you are just trying to do self-protection. And when you view it that way, because what I found, with clients especially, is that they'll be so frustrated about where they are now. Like, look at the position that I'm in. I'm like, okay, so you're here. Now you've got somewhere else to go, right? Like, where you're starting from. You're able to grow from it, clearly. And things always change. Nothing ever stays the same. Like, it's always going to change. So you get to choose what it's going to change for, either for your success and for you to grow and become more of the person you want to be, living the life that you want, or to continue down the same path where you're allowing your caveman survival traits to bubble up and continue like your cycle of self-sabotage, I guess is the way that I would put it.
Yeah. How do you think people can move through that? Do you have any suggestions like journaling or positive self-talk or like I know we don't like toxic positivity, but like what do you suggest people do? Because sometimes that fear, it's just gripping and they're just so used to, right? The neural pathways have been carved so deeply to think like that. How do they, like we talk about the superhighway, right? How do they take the exit? What do you think?
I give people, sorry if I interrupted you there. I give people a few different kind of paths. One of my favorite ones I think everybody should start doing is setting a timer for 10 minutes each night and coming up with at least 3 wins that happen during their day. And only 3 in 10 minutes. Because I'm going to tell you, when you first get started, you're like, what am I say here? But as you go on, they can be small ones. Like either I stayed off my phone for 30 minutes first thing in the morning. I got high five after my presentation at work because it went really well. I landed a big sales gig. I walked for the 2 miles. I got to pet a cute dog. I don't care. It's whatever ones you want, right? Like that, but once you start identifying the small wins, you're actually training your brain to start looking for them. And then I like to play kind of a little game with myself where I put myself on a treasure hunt for the day. And I will pick a trait that I want to find, either, like a love trait or forgiveness or some sort of, I guess, value might be a better word. And so I'll look for these values throughout the day and I'll just jot them down. Whether I see them being done to me, I'm doing them to somebody else, or I see somebody else doing them for someone else. And just doing that, like making it a treasure hunt and something fun, like we need more play in our life, right? Even as we absolutely need more play. We need to be actually enjoying our lives and creating more of that. And so the more that you start to look for it, you start to find it more. And the more that you're finding it, the less you're finding the other stuff that's not maybe working out exactly the way that you want. You're really training yourself what to look for.
Thank you for saying that. I was on the way to school this morning. My daughter, she put a song on. She's like, I woke up with this song in my head, and it was What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong. And I was like, and I thought to myself, do I think it's a wonderful world? And in that moment, I was like, no. It's not. People suck. Well, I was just like, and then I was like, no. And then like halfway through the song, I started to think about, no, like there's beauty all around us, that it is a wonderful world if we look for it.
They've done studies that have shown too that what you look for is what you're going to experience. So, like perception is reality kind of deal. And there was that study that was done of people who self-identified as lucky or people who self-identified as unlucky. Have you heard of this one?
I have, but I don't, a long time ago. Tell us.
Okay, yeah. And it's awesome. Like they gave them a newspaper, pretty much told them, count how many pictures are in here. Once you're done, you get $200. And I don't remember exactly how the timing worked out, but essentially the lucky people found the things in like 30 seconds, figured it out. And it was taking the unlucky, the folks who self-identify as unlucky, like 2 some minutes, right? Plus. And when they looked, it's because they put the answer in big, bold letters right up front. Like, hey, there's 42 pictures. And the lucky people noticed that. The unlucky ones didn't. And it's because you've literally told your brain, don't look for these opportunities for me. And so when you start to actually hunt for them, or like what you were saying, listening to the music, which I want to add, that is also a phenomenal way to start rewiring, is find like an upbeat, fun song, roll down your windows, sing, do whatever you want to do, dance around. Like there's so many little things that you can do, but it's the little things. Like I think too many folks, and I found this a lot with clients, and I did it for a very long time, they want to do everything overnight. They want to wake up on that Monday, because it has to be a Monday, remember? And they want to wake up on that Monday and they want to not check their phone, and they're going to work out for an hour, and then they're going to go climb Mount Princeton, and then they're going to do this, they're going to do this. And if they don't, then they're done. Or if they only keep up with it for like 2 days, then they're done. And they're like, I can't keep up with anything. I can't do anything. So start small, like really small.
Yeah, that's not sustainable. Like I'm actually in the middle of like shifting my diet. I was vegan for like 5.5 years, and I added in eggs and salmon and fish. And now I have kind of like inflammatory thing going on from being on vacation. And I realized I never cut sugar out. And I have shingles. I have the shingles virus. I had ocular shingles last year. And I should not be eating food that is inflaming my brain to begin with and my body. So now I'm cutting out sugar. And I'm like, is this sustainable? Can I really eat like a whole cucumber? Literally, this is kind of a funny story. I eat like, I'll just take a cucumber, clean it, cut off the ends, and just eat it. Like I'll dip it in hummus and eat it. The other day I was sitting outside just in the sun, taking like a little break. And I look at it and I'm like, I bite into it and I'm like, this is a zucchini. This is not a cucumber. And I was like, what the hell? I ate straight up raw zucchini. But anyway, how sustainable is it to like not keep up? Like I get extreme. I'm extreme. I'm like, I'm all in or I'm all out, and that is definitely a trait of the addict alcoholic, but like, and if you've listened to me for a while, you know that I'm sober a long time, but like, you have to, with all these little habits, everything that we're doing, little habits, right? They have to be small changes to eventually build up to something that is just going to work. It's going to work for you. We put so much pressure on ourselves to like be perfect and do it right and go all in immediately. We don't have to put that on ourselves.
Well, then we put so much blame and shame on ourselves when we don't.
Yeah.
And, you're never going to shame yourself into being better at anything. Like you're just not.
Doesn't
it work for a little bit, like that day, but it's not sustainable and it's not enjoyable. Like, why do we want to continue to do things that we just don't enjoy? And it's one thing if like you don't enjoy the journey, but you love the destination, right? Like people who hike mountains or, do things that they're really pushing their body physically. They may not enjoy the journey when it hurts, but they definitely enjoy the ending piece.
Yeah.
And you gotta keep your eye on that. And truly, even these small things, when you do it, like studies have shown it triggers a change in your brain to start identifying yourself as someone who does those things and someone who behaves that way. Nobody who believes that they are a healthy person who is like, let's even use the vegan example. Anybody who says like, I self-identify, my identity is that of a vegan, is going to wake up and eat a 6-ounce steak in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not going to do that. You will never consistently act in a way that goes against the concept that you hold of yourself. So you can change that concept a little bit over time.
And it has to be so deep rooted in the core. Going back to what coming full circle about, going in, listening, higher self, higher power, God, whatever. It has to hit. It has to land, for me anyway. It has to land somewhere so true and real that there's no doubt about it. There's like no question. It's like just like a knowing. And I think that's where we leave out like a lot of the, self-help and personal development stuff is very body and mind. We leave out a lot of the spirit and the soul and the connection to something greater that really is, they call it source for a reason. Yeah. It's source, and it's our source inside. And when we can tap into that and really just know, that's when it becomes real. And that's when there's no question about it. Yeah. You're not going to eat that steak if you are like, no, I know this is who I am and who I want to be.
And it aligns to your values.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of a piece that people miss is what you just said, is that they're not connecting the pieces. And to me, this is how, when people talk about manifestation, like this is how you bring manifestations about, is because you actually change the person that you are. And the experiences that you have in life have to change right along with you. And I always remind folks that if you're in a shitty situation and you feel like crap every day when you wake up, it hasn't always been like this, which means it changed to this, and it can change to something else. So don't get stuck in a cycle of like, this is just my life and it can't change. Your life has always changed. Everything has changed around you every freaking day. So yes, you can change it. You just need to like tell yourself that you can. Stop doing this like self-sabotaging cycle of I'm stuck here and I can't change anything. There's nothing I can do.
Yeah. Heraclitus, I think is his name. He said, change is the only constant.
Yeah.
Exactly. The only thing in life that is guaranteed is that it's going to change. Yeah. So if you don't like it, like here in Colorado, it's like you don't like the weather, wait 20 minutes, like everything is eventually going to change and it could get better. And the same thing, like it's great, you're in a good place, da, 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 da. It could suck again soon. It will. It will. It will. And this is, I think, another pitfall with like a lot of people trying, like seeking happiness, seeking joy. I think they think it's supposed to last forever. Like we're always supposed to be happy. Everything's always supposed to be great. And I think, yes, the majority of our lives, we should be in joy and happiness and contentment. But those rainy days are going to come and they're there for a reason, to know the good days, right? Or to just like have that learning experience.
They're also subjective, right? Like happiness is totally subjective. And I think sometimes people confuse happiness and fulfillment in life with this like constant, like up and I'm so happy kind of thing. When instead, what I have found and I've found for clients is like when you find your baseline of happiness, you're able to return to it better. Although that baseline can change. But what makes me happy and fulfilled in a day isn't going to be the same that makes you happy and fulfilled in a day. So you also need to like find yours, but not think that, oh, if I'm not like up and totally excited about absolutely everything that I'm going through, even the shitty parts, then I must not be happy and I must not be joyful. A lot of times it's that you're also learning how to deal with the challenging moments. And the more that you regulate your nervous system and your emotions and you learn how to come like internally and fall back on the fact that things will change yet again, you're able to work through even the challenging moments or the crappy feelings that you don't want to feel.
What you're reminding me of as you're speaking is the Buddhist concept of non-attachment, not committing to anything as the way it is, flowing, right? Life ebb and flow, just kind of flow with what's there, appreciate, be grateful, enjoy, be all in with that moment, knowing that it's going to pass. So not getting so attached and committed to whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think it's easier than when that thing does go or the situation changes, you can roll with it. You can just roll with it a lot more easily.
And you can still feel it. That was something else I always tell people is I'm like, you can feel your bad emotions. Well, I don't like labeling like emotions positive or negative because my anger, which a lot of people say is negative, or my grief, which a lot of people feel is negative, it can suck to feel. Like it can physically hurt to feel it. But it's not necessarily a negative emotion. It's because that thing mattered. It was important to me. Anger a lot of times is driving our survival. It's making sure that we are paying attention to what we deserve and what we're going to tolerate. And so, but it's not you don't get to feel things. Like a lot of times in manifestation or self-development or like self-improvement spaces, I see where folks are almost numbing themselves to be indifferent to everything. And that's not the point. The point is understanding and being curious about where you are and what it says about where you are currently and the way that you can grow from it or the way that you allow it to kind of throw you around and dictate your life. Going right back to what we were talking about before with external circumstances.
Thank you for bringing up the anger thing because anger's been on my mind a lot because of the work that I do with women. What I'm finding is what's coming up, and I work with people with grief or loss and in all the different ways, not really even death. That's actually a small percentage, but it's a motivator. Anger is a motivator. It motivates change. It motivates our voice. It inspires us to do something. And without feeling that, of course, we want to stay in it. We don't want to walk around rageful, hating the world and everybody and being miserable, but allowing yourself to feel it and then say, how can this actually serve me? Because I think that every bad, like you said, they're not bad, but serves us also in some way. And I'm actually considering publishing an anthology for a bunch of women and their short stories and like a chapter each. And I'm not going to say the name of it because it's really, really good and I don't want anybody to steal it. but it's going to give people a space to why are you angry? Why are you feeling this way? What induced this feeling and how can you use it for healing and transformation? How is it part of the whole human spectrum of emotion? And it's funny, where was I recently? Oh, I was at my daughter's rock show yesterday, 2 days ago. Yesterday. There was a band and the lead singer was a male and it was a heavy metal song and he was like, rah, and then a girl got up there a couple of bands later and she went, rah, and I could feel it. I could feel the energy within myself. I could feel the energy within the crowd. It felt weird. It felt weird, uncomfortable for people to see a girl, 17 years old, however old she is, screaming, showing some kind of anger, right? Because you go, and there's nothing, easy peasy, beautiful, sweet, and flowery about that. Like, there's strong emotion behind that. Why is it okay for men to show anger and not women? And that's probably a whole other podcast, but it's something to think about, right?
It is. It's also kind of what you do with the anger. Like I'm never going to pick every thought that I have. I've done this work for a really long time and I can kind of go with the flow with a lot of things, but it does not mean that I get to pick everything that I feel. It doesn't mean that I get to pick everything that like flies out of my mouth. I tell people all the time, like, I'm a hockey mom. Like sometimes like things like it comes, right? Like the rink, it's a whole different version of Cecilia and there's no control, but I do get to pick what I do with it. And the only way that I'm going to control what I do with them, like my reaction or my action after it, is if I learn how to actually feel it. If I just deny it, it just bottles up inside until it comes like spewing out of me, or it sits inside me and makes me sick. So, you have to learn how to actually feel the emotions so that you can be okay with it. And I get it. Like some of them just, they suck. Like it's not always fun to feel it, but like what you said, you can use that to channel it. Where did this come from? Why are you feeling this way? And what can you do with it?
Totally.
All
right. Well, we're nearing the end here. And I always like to ask my guests if you have anything that we haven't talked about or anything that you want to drive home again, some bits of wisdom or nugget of inspiration, experience, anything that you want to share.
I want to tell folks, I'm a big follower of Neville Goddard. If you've heard of him, he's a mystic and he's phenomenal. I love Neville Goddard. And one of the things that he says that has always stuck with me is a quote. It says, the only reason you are not what you wish to be is your inability to actually see yourself as it. So remember, you can be the person that you want to be. You just have to figure out how to get through the weak parts first so that you can continue to focus and place your attention where you need to.
And then just to add on to that, being grateful, right? I'm sure you've heard this. Be grateful for that thing already happening.
Yes, exactly.
We can think things into manifestation, but we have to really feel things into manifestation, right? Yeah. Become it. Thank you. I love Neville Goddard. Well, my husband really loves Neville Goddard. I haven't gotten like so into him, but the stuff that Jim tells me, yeah, I should do some more reading on him. I don't have time. There's so many great people out there, messages, philosophers, scientists, spiritualists, it's so cool. We live in a really interesting time.
Yes, we do.
All right, Cecilia, you've been awesome. Tell everybody where to find you, where to follow you, how to work with you, all that good stuff.
Wonderful. So you can find my website. It's Cecilia, Cecilia Hendrix, Hendrix. I always have to spell both those out. So my website is CeciliaHendrix.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I post quite often on LinkedIn, and then Instagram at the Cecilia Hendrix. So it's the Cecilia Hendrix.
Cool.
And I really appreciate you having me here. If you are interested in working with me, just shoot me an email. You can find the information on my website. I host a lot of workshops. And then I will also be posting to both of my channels where I'll be doing live speaking as well.
You are an excellent speaker. You're very polished. And I know that you've put a lot of work into this next part of your messaging and career and all of that. And I'm so excited to see what's next for you because you have a very powerful message and you have a beautiful way of delivering it. So thank you so much for being here with us today. And I'll see you soon.